Okay, so you are able to see my screen, the presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. So I'm just starting with the session. So let's go with. You're able to see, right? Yeah. Okay. So we are actually in the CANIF module. So when we are closing the previous session, so we were talking about the private and public configuration. So like I mentioned, so AutoSAR standard document, you will find many options that you can configure as a private or a public configuration. So in general, this is like controlling at a global level. So different options controlling at a global level and enabling or disabling of certain APIs to support the latest AutoSAR stacks from the previous version of AutoSAR stack. So those are the different parameters which you will be configuring in this private and the public configuration related parameters. So once the CANIF module is completed, okay, we'll have the CAN TP. So basically CAN TP we know, like, okay, CAN TP, any TP module for any network, okay, it is generally whenever we have the payload more than the actual data length supported by that respective message. So then we'll go for the segmentation of these messages, and this will be supported by the CAN TP. So CAN TP is responsible for separating the message into different segments, and then transmission with the flow control, and then on the receiver side again reassembling them or joining together, and then giving a complete information back to the module whoever is trying to use it. So these are the respective functionalities of the CAN TP module. So generally we'll be using the CAN TP in most of the projects for the diagnostics, but it is not limited to diagnostics. Wherever the payload is more than 8 bytes, so we'll be going for the CAN TP support for handling the data which is more than 8 bytes. And then with respect to the configuration for CAN TP, what and all the different parameters you will have to configure is the for each CAN TP again, for whatever all the channels you want the TP configuration to be supported, then you will have to configure the respective CAN TP channel configuration for those respective CAN channels. So, and inside any channel configuration, you will have the channel mode. So here the channel mode refers to either you want that the communication to be supported in a full duplex mode or a half duplex mode. So you guys know the full duplex mode and half duplex mode, right? So the communication in the both directions is possible in the full duplex. And in the case of half duplex, whenever the communication is happening on one side and the other, until unless it is completed, the other guy cannot start the communication from the other side. And again, here we will be for this respective CAN TP channels, we will have the references for the RX NSDU, and each RX NSDU will have the RX NPDU and TX. So you will have the normal, network PDUs, and you will have the functional PDUs, functional NPDUs, and you will have the normal NPDUs. If you want to, there are different types of PDUs in any ECU. Okay, so there are some blogs which are there already in the internet. Okay, so here I am giving one of the reference. So on how this diagnostics or the general network related PDUs or the diagnostic PDUs are handled, they are actually well explained in those things. You can go into those respective blogs for more details or clear explanation. Here I'm not going to the details of what are the different types of PDUs and how they are there. Okay, so I will also be recommending some YouTube videos where they have explained on different types of PDUs what we have and how are they different. So for each use case, whether you have to configure a network PDU or you have to configure a communication normal PDU, okay, you have to configure an IPDU. So those things are well explained in those YouTube videos. So let us not spend the time there. We'll be bothering more about the what are the different configurations involved. Okay, so here for each RX NSDU, you will have an RX NPDU and a TX functional NPDU. And for a TX NSDU, you will have a TX NPDU and an RX functional NPDU. So, and once you configure these ECUC references, ECUC references are nothing but the PDUs. So like I mentioned, ECUC will have all the PDUs, whatever is being used inside your ECU, all those PDUs will be listed in the ECUC PDU references, and from there you have to bring in those references to this RX NSDU and TX NSDU related configurations. And for each RX NSD and TX NSDU, you will have to again select the communication type, whether you want that to be a physical communication or a functional. So whenever actually there is a request, you would have heard about the functional request and the physical request. Yeah. So here you have to decide, you have to configure for each RX NSDU and TX NSDU, you have to configure whether it is going to be a functional communication or a physical type of handling. Okay. And then we'll have to configure the timing parameters. So for each RX NSDU and TX NSDU, we'll have to configure the timing parameters. Okay. So what are these timing parameters? So timing parameters here is like the time for transmission of a CAN frame on the receiver side. And if, for example, if you want to configure any wait frames, okay, so then you have to configure what should be the delay between each wait frame to the next wait frame. And then again, until reception of the next consecutive frame, so what should be the time for the respective NPDU. So all these timing parameters, it is based on again on your respective to your system design or how your system related. Generally, these are used for the diagnostics. If you consider diagnostics as a thing, so you will have to think about what are the different ECUs or different nodes in your network and how they react to each other, and what are all the timing conditions between these request and response. So based on this, you have to configure the timing parameters for every RX NSDU and also for every TX NSDU. So there will also be CAN-TP general configuration where it will have to tell about what are the different addressing formats which are supported by this CAN-TP module. You want support for the extended addressing formats, mixed, standard, or you can sometimes go for the mixed as well. And then you will have to give the information about what is the padding pattern required, and do you want to activate the padding or you want to deactivate. That is possible from the general configuration. And you have also the configuration how you want the communication should be happening, whether it should be synchronous or it should be asynchronous. Asynchronous is generally chosen for situations where the time taken for processing the request will be more than the general periodicity of the module. So in that case, we'll be going for the asynchronous communication, where we will have the opportunity to wait until the complete request is executed. So with respect to this CAN-TP, there is one very good article by Sandeep Tiwari. So sandeeptiwari.com is the website, and you have a very good article, Communication Services, CommStack, CAN-TP, AutoSAR Part 3. So this was one of the recommended articles, even like during the beginning of my career. These are the articles. That time it used to be a blog, sandeeptiwari.blogspot.com. So that time it used to be a blog, and that was one of the best tutorials I have got for learning the diagnostics and how CAN-TP works and all those things. So he has explained with some flow diagrams. So where you will also understand about the FC wait frames, so how the FC wait frames are handled. All those details you can get from this blog article or the respective website article. Please visit that whenever you find some time. And the next important module, let us jump into the PDUR. So PDUR, if you see, the PDU is the PD router module where it will be routing. So PDUR is one interesting and important module in general for the communication. So this PDUR is not specific to any communication protocol. So all the communication, whichever is the communication protocol you are using, the communication between different modules, okay, inside the BSW will be handled mostly by the PDUR. And PDUR has many functionalities. So we'll just go through one by one. So it is responsible for routing the PDU to the respective specific bus interface modules. Bus interface in the sense like CANIF or LINIF, okay, or Ethernet if. Okay, so in such cases, the routing of the PDUs to the respective bus related interface modules is the responsibility of the PDU router. And above the PDU router, all the PDUs are like, protocol independent. So from the PDU router, generally all the above modules, if you see, it will be like either COM, or in case of multiplexed PDUs, it will be IPDUM. Okay, so and above the PDUR, okay, and below PDUR you will have the bus specific modules like CANIF. In case of Ethernet, we'll have the socket adapter, and in case of diagnostics, again, okay, you can have the CAN TP and all those things. So, but basically above the PDUR, these are all protocol independent, so you need not bother whether it is an Ethernet message or whether it's a CAN message or all those things. Okay, so above the PDUR, all PDUs are protocol independent, and below the PDUR, all PDUs are routed to the protocol specific modules, like I mentioned, CANIF, LINIF, socket adapter, and those such, etc. So, and then the PDUR module, it will also offers gateway. Okay, so transmitting the received PDU from one specific bus to another specific bus. For example, when you want to go for communication related gateways, like where you're receiving a message on Ethernet and you want to transmit the same message without doing any change in your ECU, then you can go for this PDU level gateway supported by the PDUR module. So this PDUR module will help you. Always the PDUR module, yes, we will be looking into the what are the parameters. In general, yes, it will have a source reference and it will have a destination PDU reference. So in case of gatewaying, so generally it will be between the interface modules of different communication layers. For example, if I am communicating or gatewaying a message directly from Ethernet to CAN, so then the source will be the socket adapter and the respective socket adapter related PDU as the reference for the source, and on the destination side it will be the CAN, for example CAN, then it will be the CANIF module and the respective CANIF related PDU, which you will be again referring from the ECUC like we have discussed earlier. Okay, so this kind of gateway implementations across different communication protocols or the communication bus channels is supported by the PDUR. So you need not do anything here, just give it as a source and give the destination network and give the respective PDU related references, and your job is done. PDUR will take care of it. Okay, there are different other parameters which are supported by PDUR specific to attend your use cases that we will see in the next in the configuration parameters. But in general, yes, so PDUR supports the gatewaying, and you can also gateway in the same protocol. For example, if you have different channels, for example, inside the CAN, you have different 2 or 3 CAN channels, and you want to take the data from one CAN channel and gateway it to the other CAN channel. Again, this is supported by the PDUR module. So PDUR supports gateway across different communication channels and also gateway across the same communication channel. So apart from this, PDUR is responsible for taking it's like the postman job. So taking the data from one layer to the and giving it to the other layer. So in general, whenever we talk about a application related message, so basically it will be going from the CANIF module to the COM module. So the source will be the CANIF related and the CANIF PDU and the CANIF module, and the destination will be the COM and the COM module, COM related PDU reference. So two things. One thing is either gatewaying completely at the bus level or passing the information to the above level layers like the service layer to cater the data to the application layer, and also in general for the usage in the service layer. So these are the main responsibilities or the functionalities of PDU router. And let's see, now we will see what are the different things we will configure inside the PDUR. So if you look at the first parameter is like we have to list out or give the references of all the BSW modules which the PDUR will be interacting with. So this is the first main basic thing you will have to configure. Mostly you will get this configured. For example, all these parameters will be configured when you have all this configured in your ECU extract or a DBC file or any database input file. So, but if in case you have to manually configure, yes, it will also allow you to manually configure, wherein you have to give the information to the PDUR module. So which are all the BSW modules it have to interact. So all the above level layer modules and all the below level layer modules. So if you talk about the below level layer modules, it will be like CANIF, LINIF and socket adapter, and all the above level layer, it will be the COM in general, and then sometimes IPDM in case of multiplex messages. Okay, so then for example, if you are actually going for a communication thing, so sometimes if you have XCP related things, then there will be also XCP related messages and the respective configurations for the PDU. And again, I think a diagnosis anyway, it will be the same kind of thing. So we'll have from the TP kind of implementations. We will see. So after once we have configured all the BSW modules whom we are going to interact, it's just like giving the reference of the respective module from your configuration. And then it will be followed by the routing tables. So first thing in the routing tables, we will have the routing path groups. Okay. So here the routing path groups are actually mostly not generally used, but some of the stacks, they allow this or they provide this functionality wherein, for example, if you want to create some BSWM rules, okay, where you can completely enable or disable a group of IPDUs. Okay, so in such cases, we can make use of creating routing path groups. So what is the difference between a normal routing path and routing path group is, so for every routing path, you will have a source and destination like we have discussed. But in case of a routing path groups, there is nothing called as source, always there is only destination. So anything which is going to a particular destination IPDU, we will be able to disable or enable the what we call routing of these PDUs with a single by controlling a single routing path group. And once we create this routing path group from the BSWM, we'll be able to create our own rules on disabling or enabling a particular routing path. So you can control a group of routings using this option. Okay, so that's the main importance of routing paths. And most of the projects that I have seen, they haven't made use of this routing paths in detail. Okay, and next thing is the exclusive area definition. So exclusive area definition is like, you know, the general RTE or the OS related exclusive areas where you want to give the control, or you want to take the make use of the OS resources specifically only to this particular module. So in such cases, you have to configure the exclusive area. So similarly, we can configure an exclusive area for the PDUR, which will be used in the routing paths configuration. So we'll see now what does this routing paths contains. So in any routing path, like we discussed, we'll have the exclusive area reference. And then here we'll have to mention for a respective routing path, what is the communication type? Is it a communication interface type or a transport protocol? So in case of normal message communication, it will always be the communication interface. And in case of messages like diagnostics or Ethernet, that will be DUIP, or diagnostics or CAN, that will be CAN-TP. So all the routing paths which are specific to diagnostics, or where we are dealing with the data size is more than the allowed data size. So then in such case, we will have to configure this as a transport protocol. And then we will have the source PDU related configuration and the destination PDU related configuration. So in case of source PDU, then again you will have which is the source BSW module, which will be sending this data. So, and then you will also give the ECUC reference for the respective thing. And then on the destination side, again, you will have the destination BSW module, and it will again contain the reference to the ECUC about which is the thing, and how this handling. So if you want to handle this routing paths with some specific requirements, okay. So for example, whether you want to do this continue cyclically or interrupt based. So all those things are again different parameters which can be configured inside the PDUR module. So PDUR on the source side, there are not many parameters, but on the destination side, so if you look at any destination, so you will have different options for how you want the destination PDU to be processed, whether you want to configure it as like an immediate or default, like whenever there is the change in the data only, you want that information to be routed, or you want when any data coming inside, you want to just pass it on. Okay, so that can be configured inside the destination PDU. And again, the destination PDU routing type will be there, where you will have to tell whether it is an API forwarding type or other format supported, like you want to do a gateway routing. So like we have discussed, there are gateway routing and API forwarding. So anything which is gatewayed at the communication layer level, like CANF to CANF or CANF to socket adapter or socket adapter to CANF, this will be called as gateway routing. And anything which you are passing to the application layer or the service layers like the COM and IPDM, that will be called as the API forwarding. Okay, so you will just forward the data to the upper layer layers, and then above that, okay, it can actually change the data or it can read the data, so it can process the data. And again, he can here, if you want the TX confirmation for a respective message, so and then here you can also enable that TX confirmation related, transmission confirmation related parameter in the PDR destination PDU module, okay, where you can get the confirmation from the PDR after the transmission is confirmed. And then the PDR will give it to the upper level module, and the upper level module can process it, and then again it will have some TX confirmation, again that can be done. So in case of, for example, in case of a CAN message, if you want a TX confirmation, the first thing is the CANF. CANF will give the TX confirmation to PDR. PDR will give the TX confirmation to the COM, and COM can use this TX confirmation for giving any indications to the RTE and the application layers, wherever they can do some processings as per the requirements. Whenever the TX confirmation is applied, then they can transmit the next data. These kind of use cases will be there. So those kind of use cases can be achieved by enabling this transmission confirmation flag. And then the last is the TX buffer table. So for any transmitted data, so if the PDR module, if it detects, okay, that the single buffer may not be sufficient to transmit the complete data, so then it will automatically ask you to configure one more TX buffer, and the buffer size can be computed based on your system requirements. And when it comes to general, you can actually configure at a PDR level whether you can support the deferred reception or not, like whether this module can support like verification of the data, whether the previous data and the current data is same or not. So that verification support is available or not, you can disable or enable that in the general configurations. And support for deferred transmission and deferred reception. So you can also check the transmission and reception based on only when the data is changed. And in case of PDR, if you don't want, if you want the PDR to be cyclically executed, irrespective of the data is coming or triggered from the destination or source, so then you can also configure the main function period here. So the PDR will be executing cyclically with respect to this time period. Okay, and for this, for the PDR exclusively, there is one article in our website, the auto8connect.com blog. So I have provided the link here. You can go through that, where the same things are explained with diagrams and all. So probably after the session, we can just, I can show you like what are all that, how, where you can find this article in our website. Okay, so I am now just jumping to the, of course, the last module, but the very important module for the communication over any bus protocol. So here, of course, this communication module is bus independent module. So it doesn't bother anything about from which communication bus or which communication channel it is coming from and all those things. Like we have discussed about the PDUR, all these are all bus independent. They don't have any constraints with respect to the buses. So here at the COM level, it doesn't know anything about where this PDU is going to be transmitted or received. So now let's see what are the different functionalities. So when it comes to the COM functionality, it is the main functionality is providing the signal level access to the application layers. So until now, whenever we are discussing about the communication, we are always talking about the PDU. Okay, so PDU is like a group of signals, okay, which are arranged. For example, for a CAN message, yes, it can be of 8 bytes, and all the signals which are part of this PDU will be placed inside the PDU with respect to the different bit positions and the byte orders or the bit orders, how they have adjusted. So all those things. So all the signals are placed inside the PDU. So until it comes to the COM, every communication is over a PDU, and only inside the COM module, COM is able to distribute the data based on a signal level. So segregation of the data from a PDU level to signal level is done in the COM, and it provides a signal level access to the application layer or the RTE. So if you see here, so if you want to read one particular signal data in the all the previous layers, you will see that the complete PDE is being transmitted. But whereas in this case, you have the possibility to access the respective particular signal from the COM. And you can see here, PDU level access to the lower level. Okay, so in the upper level layer, like above the this COM module, that is the application and the RTE. So you will have the signal level access, and below the for the below level layers, it is the PDU level access. Okay, irrespective of whatever is the protocol, CAN, LIN, Ethernet. Okay, so now the next thing is the packing of the signals to the PDU at the transmitter side. So on the receiver side, it receives as a PDU, translates it into signals, and on the other sides, it will also be responsible for packing the signals back to a PDU and then transmitting the PDU to the below level layers. Okay, and at the PDU level, COM is responsible for grouping of the PDU, starting and stopping of the PDU group. So here in the COM, you will also see IPDU groups, where you can actually group together some list of PDUs across per each communication channel, and you can control, okay, starting and stopping of this PDU groups as a single bunch. So that is and one another functionality which is provided by the COM. So let's see what does generally the COM configuration contains. So COM, the first thing is the gateway mapping. So in PDUR, we have also seen the gatewaying. So what is the difference between the PDUR gatewaying and the COM gatewaying? So like we discussed, at the PDUR are the any layers below PDUR and below. So there it is always at the PDU level. So the gatewaying, whatever we do there is complete PDU gateway. Whereas, for example, we consider a use case where you are getting a PDU from one CAN channel, and that contains, let's say, a message contains 8 signals, and each size is of size 1 byte, and among them 2 signals in that particular PDU are processed and filled by one particular ECU, and over a communication or for example CAN bus, it communicates this PDU with 2 signals only filled by that respective ECU, and then it gives to the second ECU. And now let's say in the second ECU, it receives these 2 signals and it processes some data. Then let's assume the rest of the 6 signals are being filled by the second ECU. So in this case, what we are doing is, and then again, after filling the 6 signals, let us assume the use case where it has to give this complete 8 signals to the next ECU. So in this case, 2 signals are not changed at all, but rest of the 6 signals, initially they will be 0 if they are with default value 0, let's assume. So in such cases, that these zeros will be replaced by the valid processed values by the second ECU. So the first 2 signals, valid processed values by the first ECU. The rest of the 6 signals, valid processed signals by the second ECU. So in these 2 cases, now we have the complete PDU filled with valid data. And now this we have to route it to the third ECU using the, so now in this case, first 2 signals we have to, we should not alter that, we should not change anything. The second ECU will not do anything for this first 2 signals. Then in this case, these 2 signals can be gatewayed. It is called as signal gatewaying, and that is supported only at the COM level. Because the signal level access is possible only at the COM level, the signal level gatewaying is also possible only at the COM level. So this is one of the other feature which is highly useful if in case you are working at a complex vehicle network, or of course it is most of the general use cases where you will all the signals inside the PDU, because the PDUs are segregated based on the functionality of the vehicle, not at the functionality of a respective ECU. So in general, the communication design happens at the vehicle level, not at the ECU level. And then it is segregated per ECU. So there is always high possibilities that not all the signals will be filled or processed by one single ECU. There is a possibility that it will be processed by multiple ECUs. In such cases, this gateway, signal gatewaying is very much helpful. And that's what will be the configurations of the COM gateway. So here, like any gatewaying, you will have a source and destination. So you will be having the COM signal reference like RX, the source signal and the destination signal. So generally, ideally, it should be like the source will be always the RX signal for the COM, and the destination will be the TX signal in the COM. And the next thing is the COM IPDU groups. So here I have talked about the COM IPDU groups, where you can actually group the RX and TX PDUs for each communication channel separately. Okay, so you can segregate. So in a particular communication channel, all TX channel messages can be grouped together, all RX channels can be grouped together, and the advantage of doing this is you will have the control over the complete group. You need not do the control for each independent PDU. So this is supported by the COM, and it is also mostly widely used use case where you will be grouping the IPDUs together, and then you will be able to control them. So then the COM IPDUs. So this COM IPDUs is again like, so like we are discussing. So we will have this IPDU related. So you like I mentioned. So inside our ECU there will be lot of types, different types of PDUs, and at the COM level they will be called as the IPDUs. And here again, every PDU can be either it will be like a transmitting PDU or a reception PDU. So in these two cases, yes, you will have the we'll having the list of all the TX PDUs, IPDUs, and the RX IPDUs, and each will be having the reference to the respective PDU in the ECUC. So any PDU that you will find in your ECU will be listed in the ECUC for sure. So this is where you will find all the list of, if somebody asks what are the total number of PDUs used in your ECU, then you can directly go ahead to the ECUC module and you can see from there. And there you will be able to see all the PDUs irrespective of whichever the communication channel and whichever is the BSW module it is being used by. You will find the list of all the PDUs here. And in each module, BSW module, you will be referring or giving a reference to the ECUC for the use case. And like we have discussed, we have RX and TX. So for each PDU, you will have the respective IPDU group. If you have put this IPDU into a IPDU group, then you will have the reference of that IPDU group here. And again, what should be the signal processing type, whether you want to transmit or receive immediately, or you want to do it whenever the data is changed, that is the deferred method. And then again, the PDU direction, in case of RX, it will be receive, and in case of TX, it will be transmit. And what is the PDU type, whether it is a normal or a TP. So whether it is a normal PDU or it's used for a TP PDU, like wherever the data length is more than the allowed size of 8 bytes. And then we'll have also the signal group and the signal references. For example, a PDU, what are all, sometimes it can be signals, or sometimes we'll be grouping the signals. Okay, that we'll see in the below thing, that is the COM signal groups. We'll be grouping the signals wherever it is like the data is dependent on each other. For example, when you're talking about the vehicle consumption at a moment, so then the vehicle consumption is calculated based on the distance traveled and then also the speed value and all those things. So always the value achieved for a consumption or value achieved for efficiency is always dependent on the different other values at a particular instant of time. So you always need the data at that very instant, all the values of those signals. So you cannot transmit at different time periods or one by one, so that at each instance that the value of that particular signal can change. So instead of that, so what we'll be grouping them together, and we will be sending the data on each of these signals as a group at one particular instant of time. At the nth second, what are the values for all these signals? So in such cases, we will be grouping the signals. So wherever we group the signals, we have to give the signal group reference to the respective PDU, whether it is RX or TX PDU. And in case of individual signals, again, like we may talk, the PDU will be what we call looked at a signal level in the COM. So you will be referring again the what are all the signals in that respective PDU. Those details we will be configuring for a COM IPDU. And we discussed about the signal groups, and then we also discussed about the signals. Then here the signals will have again RX and TX signals. And for each signal, the parameter, what will be the parameter is what is the size of that respective signal, and what is the bit position inside that PDU, what is the bit position, where does this particular signal starts. And then Indianness, you know, the little Indian and big Indianness. So what should be the format it should be following. And then what is the init value of this signal, and then the signal type. So whether it is UINT or what is the data type of that. And then we will have the, for TX messages, we will have the transfer property, whether it should be triggered on like in triggered mode or in a pending mode and all those things, cyclic. So, and then the last and very important thing is the COM time base. So here what we will be configuring is the periodicity of the COM RX and COM TX things and the gateway functionality. So like we also discussed, the COM support signal level gatewaying. So here it has the support for to configure at what periodicity the PDUs or the gatewayings needs to be processed. Okay, so the main, it's very critical. The reason why I say very critical is, for example, in your list of PDUs which are processed by the COM, let us assume we will have to configure the periodicity of this COM RX. For example, if you take the list of all the RX PDUs and one of the message is being transmitted, let's say at 1 millisecond, and rest of all the, let's say 100 PDUs are there, RX PDUs, one message is being transmitted at 1 millisecond and rest of are all being transmitted at 100 milliseconds. For this one particular PDU, we will have to run the COM RX indication related function at 1 millisecond, which will abruptly affect your CPU load. Okay, and it will impact the overall performance of your communication things, and sometimes you will be finding a lot of problems in the communication periodicities. So you will not be able to achieve the timing requirements of your vehicle communication. So you have to be very sensitive and be critical on the least periodicity that your ECU can support, considering the CPU load, whatever it is it has currently, and then when you add new messages, so how much is the CPU load? So considering that, whenever you are looking for the communication design, this is one of the important constraint you will have to look at. And it's the same is the use case for the TX. And in the case of RX, you will not be able to see much problems in the testing, but in case of TX, obviously the RX of one ECU is obviously the TX of the another ECU. So in the case of TX, so whenever you are not able to process the data in proper time, so you will be sending the data onto the bus in a delayed timelines, which will be causing different level of issues, level 2, level 3 kind of issues in your bus testing. So here you have to be very sensitive and be very what we call very careful when you're choosing the timelines at which the data can be processed. Okay, with our experience, generally the recommendation is you just need to configure with whatever is the least periodicity needed. But with my understanding, the general recommendation for a complex architecture is generally 10 milliseconds is the least you can configure. And then in the general, you have different enable APIs to support different versions of AUTOSAR. That is the COM general configuration. So the main critical thing which you have to be careful is about the timings, at what rate you are processing your COM RX and TX functions in your respective application or your respective ECU. So be very vigilant to that. And yeah, I think mostly we are done with all the modules. One module which we didn't discuss for the communication as such is the IPDM. IPDM is again, there are two types of configurations involved in the IPDM, the multiplex message configurations and the container PDU configurations, which we will see it as a separate article, okay, or a separate discussion in the coming days. So with respect to this, I have referred different AUTOSAR specs for each module, like whatever we have seen there. So all those parameters are well explained there in those things. But again, going through this session, okay, you will understand only about what are the parameters that are there to configure. But deciding what parameter need to be configured, like what should be the value configured for the parameter, there are two things with respect to you should have the knowledge about what is the use case of the respective CAN channel and the CAN messages in the respective channel. And second thing is a little bit knowledge if you are configuring the MCAL or CAN transceiver module, you should have some knowledge about your hardware and how your MCAL modules are configured. So you should have some little bit minimal knowledge about your controller and the respective drivers. So that is needed. You have to go through, and for each module level, like we have discussed CAN DP, CAN NM, CAN SM, PDUR, COM, and then CANIF, and then CAN driver. For each of these modules, you will have the AutoSAR related SWS and SRS documents, as well as you will have the stack supplied document. So if you are buying the stack from any of the stack suppliers, so they will also have their internal module related guidelines or the manuals. You can go through them, and then you will have to decide based on the system what is the actual requirement of your system. So there are no see, all these configurations, whatever we have seen as the standard configuration recommended by the AutoSAR standards, that these are the must things which has to be configured. And again, AutoSAR will always say that, okay, the configuration parameters need to be configured as per your channel or the system level requirements or your system design. And there is also this Ambitel block, so where I have referred the first two diagrams I have considered in this session. Those are taken from Ambitel. So Ambitel will give you the high level information about this. Okay, what are all the these modules involved in the communication, but you won't find the information about these parameters in their blog. Okay, so that's what extra we have covered in this session. And in general, yes, you also know about the document search, where you can go and check for the documents in the AutoSAR. So next thing is like the self-learning, so which we already discussed in our last session. So whenever you want to go for a self-learning, just go and search in the document search, and you will find always two documents. You will find SRS and SWS. And SRS you will find what is required to do, and SWS it will tell you how to do what is required. So always at a developer level, yes, SWS will be the good way to start. And if you are looking at an expert, being the expert of that respective thing, then you should also be aware about the SRS. And last time we have covered the basics of AutoSAR, and now this week, even though it is like I have reduced the content to the maximum possible, because otherwise the session will be too much extended. But I have tried to cover almost all the parameters. So if you are trying to configure a CAN communication stack, what and all is needed. Okay, so in general, I have covered those things. So, but obviously I will recommend you to go to the respective AutoSAR documents and go through in detail about each of these parameters if you are actually going to design your communication system. Otherwise, it is not possible. So just be very vigilant there, and let's see. So next sessions, we want to look at the application software component design. So what are the different parameters that we'll be configuring when we want to go for an application software component design? And there are some best practices which we have learned from our experiences. So we'll try to share it there. And then the next things will be for the PDUR, like we have discussed. So we can have a separate session discussing about the things in that article. And then the next thing, like today we have gone for the CAN, we'll have a separate session for the Ethernet communication, the layer wise, what are the different modules we have to configure. And for each of these modules, what are the different things we'll be configuring. That will be the other session. And followed by, yes, at later point of time, we can also cover a little bit about the OS. So what are the different key configurations involved in the OS configuration, either it is for a single core or a multi-core level design. So we can just have a look at the key configurations. So with this, I am done. So if you have any questions, let's discuss now.
Okay, you were talking about the wake up source in ECUC.
Correct.
Is it for the microcontroller or for the CAN channel?
See, in the ECM, if you see ECU manager, okay, so it won't be, see, it will be considering all the networks or the communication networks which are there in your ECU. Okay, so it will be for each channel, you can have a network wake up source. Okay, so for example, if you take a CAN channel, so each CAN, let's say you have two CAN channels in your ECU. So for each channel, you can have one wake up source, and that will be configured as a part of ECM. So ECM is again an interesting module, which maybe we can cover it in one session. So where you will be having the this is for the complete ECU. So ECU is the ECU manager, where you will be talking about the complete everything at the ECU level. So if you go to the ECM configuration, right? So you will have the how your ECU sleep can be handled, wake up can be handled, and there you will be configuring different wake up sources for your. So for example, if I have, let's say, 2 CAN channels, 2 link channels, and then 2 Ethernet channels in my ECU. So for each channel, I will have the wake up source configured. So wake up source is nothing but, so for each communication channel, you will be configuring one channel reference, and from the channel, again, we are actually, if you go into the low level layers, so for each, for example, in the CANIF and in CAN transceiver, for each of these channels, we are talking about whether the wake up is supported or not. So if the wake up is supported by the respective channel, then we can have that channel configured as a wake up source in the ECU. So it's the other way around.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah. So, but what this wake up actually means, is it only limiting the? I mean, it only wake ups the channel working, or is it going to put in some energy save mode for MCU?
See, basically, the ECU will have different states, right? Like in the run state and the sleep state, wake up state, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever the ECU is in the sleep, so somebody has to wake up this ECU. Okay. Sometimes it can be an wake up based on a IO channel. For example, it will be a hardware. For example, if you have a switch or if you have a key, in case of, for example, our old vehicles and our old, for example, bikes or those things. So you can have one single power line which will wake up the ECU. Okay. Or sometimes where you are actually completely going to off mode. So sometimes the ECU is only in sleep situation. Okay. And we want to just wake it up by sending one NM message onto one particular channel. Okay. So you can wake up a ECU with respect to one single message being transmitted, and this message will go and wake up this particular ECU, okay, on that particular channel. And once the ECU wakes up, again, ECU has validations, like who has woke me up, whether I'm needed to wake up. For example, whenever on a bus there is an NM message, all the ECUs or the nodes connected to that particular bus will get this information. Okay. Sometimes this information may be relevant for that ECU, or sometimes it might not be relevant. So is the ECU will just wake up and it will check for the message, whatever it has come. So if it is configured as a one of the wake up source for this particular ECU, then it will be awake and then it will perform whatever is the job it has to perform. Otherwise, it will understand, okay, I have received a message, but this is not configured as one of the valid wake up source for me. Okay. So again, it will continue to sleep.
Okay. Got it.
Got it?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So always it can be a bus wake up or it can be a physical line wake up.
Okay.
So you will be hearing something called as K line and all those things in generally in the projects. So where you have a physical line, so it's kind of a switch. So when you enable that switch, so there is a physical indication over an IO channel to a ECU. Or the other way supported is wherever mostly in the vehicles, it will be a bus sleep and wake up. Okay. So based on the communication, so it will be sleeping and waking up. It won't go to the complete off mode and all those things. Okay. Wherever we have the battery related critical systems where the battery consumption cannot be more, where it has no capability to have more bigger batteries. So in such cases, to avoid the power consumption, sometimes some of the ECUs will be completely put off mode and they will be restarted every time. Okay. Whereas in the case of vehicles where you want the immediate response and all those things, then you will not allow the ECU to completely go to off mode. You will only put it into sleep mode.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So any further questions?
And one question on CAN TP.
Yes.
So CAN TP for SDUs, you said there is a pair, right? One is
Functional type and
function. Yeah.
physical request and functional request.
So CAN TP always work with a pair of IDs. Is it one for the actual video and the one for
so if you have seen, so there we are talking about the CAN TP channel level configuration, correct, right? So
Yeah.
wherever you, for example, let's again say we have 4 CAN channels, and out of which only 2 CAN channels you are performing diagnostics, or you are trying to make use of the TP kind of communication. TP kind of communication is just always don't think about diagnostics as TP. TP is anything which is more than 8 bytes. Okay.
Yeah.
So in such cases, so we will have to configure the which channels has to be supported for the CAN TP. Okay. So there you will be giving the reference to the respective CAN channels. Okay. And there you will be talking about 2 type of requests and responses. So it can be a functional request, okay, wherein the request can be common for multiple channels of the CAN, okay, or multiple receivers, and there is a physical like one-to-one communication. So wherever there is a tester and then there is only one our ECU, and then we want the only communication directly between the tester and our ECU, then it can be direct physical request and response.
Okay.
Whereas in case of the tester want to give a common request or command to multiple ECUs, then it will make use of the functional requests. Okay, wherein the functional request, the request will be given to all the ECUs connected, and then when it comes inside, yes, it will understand it as a functional request coming, and then for the functional request, there is no response needed in most cases. Okay, so because the tester or the master who has given this command, it will not be waiting for your response because it has given this command to multiple ECUs.
Okay.
So it is again case dependent. I will not say that is must that okay there is no response needed. So again it is case to case basis how you implement, and yeah, in some cases you'll have your own special implementations needed to support your diagnostics. And mostly if you see the general use case is the general use case of diagnostics that you will feel or more visible inside your area of work will be the flashing parts. So whether flashing over CAN or flashing over Ethernet, so you will find a lot of configurations with respect to this functional and physical things. So in case of normal diagnostics, you'll always know that, right? You'll always give it at a vehicle to vehicle level. I mean, sorry, ECU to ECU level, correct, right? So the tester will be directly talking to the ECU. Whereas in case of it has to give, for example, the tester has to tell all the ECUs inside a network to saying that okay, now I am changing to flash mode. So then it need not tell this information to each and every ECU one by one. So it can tell to the vehicle, okay, now the vehicle is being flashed. So the other things should not disturb this particular ECU. Okay. So this type of common commands can be given as kind of a broadcast request or this functional request.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Yeah. Thanks, Arvind. Any other questions?
Upcoming sessions you are planning for SECOC and intrusion detection system also?
SECOC, I have only the theoretical knowledge. Okay, SECOC as a module, because SECOC as a single module we can cover. But
Okay.
as you know, the SECOC is always goes along with other modules like CSM and HSM and all those things. Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. So we will have to cover the CSM also if we want to go on SECOC. And SECOC, when we go for the SECOC, we'll also need to talk about how SECOC will talk to the other modules inside the ECU. So
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, of course, security out of context. So element out of context. But here, SECOC configuration as such is very easy, and it's always morely based on your security requirements, which the respective cyber security team inside your company will be aligning the requirements, and from there you
I
have
would
to.
like,
Yep, sorry.
yeah, I like your approach, do's and don'ts. Okay.
Yeah.
Only I will check inside the Google regarding SECOC and maybe CSM or crypto layers.
Yeah.
Any information is found in Google itself. That means it is not a company oriented information. It is inside the global channel already available means
Yeah.
I will share you in offline to you. That is
Yeah,
fine for
please.
you.
Yeah, that
Then
should be
we
fine.
can include into, yeah.
Yeah. So exactly. So I'm not talking about like the parameters. Okay. So in general, yes, we can discuss as SEOC. So Ram Subbarao, you are working on this topic or how it is?
I'm basically cybersecurity wise only, but I'm involved in that TARA analysis too until concept levels of not only communication part,
Mhm.
even though diagnosis related, like a secure access or maybe say secure debug or maybe trusted boot,
Okay.
intrusion detection systems, and the security, all the features. It is
Okay.
not dedicated to only like a communication level.
Yeah.
My involvement will there for all the cybersecurity topics.
Perfect. So, is it possible for you to give one session to all of our members here, so that we can actually get some information on that? Is it possible? Is it something presentable in that way, or it is a little bit difficult?
It not be a difficult, but before we are presenting in this forum, I need to look that whatever we are talking, everything is available in the Google or not. Otherwise, it
Yeah.
will come like yeah, because
Yeah. This is
anyhow
one thing
ISO
which I do.
1434.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked your approach and the complete black color and yeah. Surely we'll plan for upcoming sessions. I will give you 1 or 2 sessions for cybersecurity. It is not a
Perfect.
problem.
That would be really great. And with respect to this AutoSAR configurations for these security modules, so I will try to cover, because anyway, everything whatever I'm discussing here is part of the AutoSAR ORG documents. I'm not taking anything from any project specific things. Okay. So
I
that
got
should be fine. Yeah, you can also do the same thing. Yeah. Perfect.
Yes, yes.
So any other questions from any other? Thank you. Thank you so much, Ramsuba.
Yeah, welcome.
Any other questions from the other participants? Yeah, then we can close the session here. Yeah, sir, please. Sorry.
Can I get regarding session?
Yeah. So I am actually, you can see at the bottom of this page, I'm talking about an YouTube channel. So I will just upload these sessions there, and I will share you the link. And you can actually also go and subscribe to this channel, where actually now onwards, what are all the sessions that we are going to record, I'm planning to place them in that thing. So you can also, you have different ways of connecting with us, so we'll have to plan the session. So like everybody, yes, we are all having our own jobs, so we'll try to see the timelines where we can match up, and then we'll try to conduct the next sessions. So but in general, my intention is to have it continuously, so that we keep on discussing on the some or the other topic, so that I can learn from you people and you can learn from my experiences, if that is fine.
Some of my friends are missing this session. For sure.
Yeah, understood.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in the other case, yeah, you can reach us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and then you have also the YouTube channel. And please recommend this channel to your friends if you feel these are useful. And if you have some recommendations and suggestions, also you can just put it into the comments for the respect to YouTube videos.
Okay, sure.
Fine. So then, yeah, I'm just trying to